Hi, guys. Hang on just a second and we'll get the interest. Wow, we're live. The intro's just sitting here spinning. So it'll kick in
Okay.
right in the middle of us talking, I'm sure.
So, our
What is it doing? We're going to start over. Wait. Oh, we can in the stream. Okay. We are living up to harbingers and omens for sure, because nothing is working all of a sudden.
Oh no.
What is it doing?
I don't know.
We're live. It says we're streaming. Oh,
Oh my lord.
geez.
Is it going to kick back on again?
I don't know. Did it kick on at all?
Yeah.
Okay. What is happening?
Okay. Is it done playing?
Did it play at all?
It played 3 times.
Oh no. I saw
Yeah.
nothing. I saw nothing on this end.
Wow. Okay. So, for all yos at home,
Mm.
welcome to our nightmare. So, apparently, as Pam was saying, this show is living up to its name, Omens and Harbingers. I have no idea if either of us is going to make it through this night alive, but we're going to
And
see what
said
happens.
that YouTube is saying the chat is disabled for the stream too.
Oh
So,
no.
Jess, why don't you go ahead and first off, welcome everybody. And like Jess said, welcome to our nightmare. We don't know what's happening or why it's happening. But if you could do a little housekeeping, I'm going to jump over to YouTube really quick and see if I can figure out what's happening there. So,
Absolutely. Okay. So, first of all, this is Pam and I am Jess, and welcome to Bordertown Strange. We're having some technical difficulties tonight. Like I said, I think the Omens and Harbingers have reared their ugly heads, and it has been exciting thus far. So join us. Anywho, a little bit of housekeeping while Pam figures out what the heck is going on. Wish her luck. I want to take a really quick minute to thank our followers and subscribers. We appreciate you so much. If you're on Facebook right now, just take a minute to like and share. And if you're on YouTube, take a moment to give us that thumbs up, hit that bell, and subscribe if you haven't already. And also, if you are a listener, we are available on all podcasting platforms, and you can go back and listen to all of our shows. They are free for you to go and back and listen to. We've been around for about a year and a half now, so we've accumulated a few shows you can listen to. We would also like to ask if you are listening on a podcast platform to please take a moment and give us a rating. We would appreciate it so much. So, my phone is ringing. Is that you, Pam?
no,
No?
it
Okay.
might be. Is it Enzo?
I have no idea.
Enzo's
We'll
trying to
find
help.
out. Okay. So, really quick, this next weekend, if you are going to be in the mid-Kansas area, please stop in at Geneseo, Kansas. They are having the big, huge Kansas UFO Day Festival in that little tiny town there, July 5th. It's fantastic fun and it's very family friendly. We will be giving a couple of panels and some Q&A. There's going to be vendors and speakers and artists and musicians, and they have a parade and a big dance that night, and just lots and lots of fun all throughout the day, games and stuff like that. Come out and take a peek. We're going to try to run a little bit of video. So look for that to go up onto our Facebook page and maybe onto YouTube too. Then August 2nd, you can find us at the KC Paracon in Leavenworth, Kansas. It actually runs, I believe, the 1st and the 2nd of August. We'll be there the 2nd, which is a Saturday. Lots of great speakers and panelists there. Joshua Cutchin's going to be there. Perry is going to be there. So that'll be great fun also. And I also wanted to talk to you a little bit about something new we're going to do. We're kind of wanting to get our numbers up a little bit, especially on Facebook. So we've decided to do a fun new version of the notebook game on Facebook. Now, we're not going to tell you when and where it's going to happen, but occasionally I'm going to pop up a picture of the notebooks, and the first person to like and share and comment which notebook and notebook page you want to hear from, the first person who gets it, or the first person who comments, will get to see the page that they picked up online. I'll throw it up for about a day or so you guys can kind of get a in-between notebook fun game type of situation. You'll get to see whatever it is you pick. So be on the lookout for that. Like I said, we're not going to tell you when or where that's going to happen. How's it going, Pam?
I may have figured it out.
She may have figured it out.
Figured it out, but let me, keep talking.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can.
So we're going to wait on the word of the week because that's actually Pam's this week. But I'm going to talk to you a little bit. Like I said, we're having terrible troubles with this particular topic coming up here. And the omens and harbingers have been thick. And in fact, I wanted to talk a little bit about last weekend. I kind of had my own experience with like a type of omen situation. I'd called Pam because it was just extraordinary for me. I had gotten up in the morning and I had to take some artwork to a dealer that sells for me. And on my way there, I told Pam a humongous crow came down out of the sky and landed on the road in front of me and did a funky little dance. There was no, roadkill or bugs or anything on that road. The road was perfectly clear, but this crow lands right in front of my car and does this weird little hoppy dance in circles and then flew off. And I thought it was really strange and I kind of took note of it. And then the entire day unfolded, just one thing happened after the other because of particular things that I was choosing to do. And my entire day went like that. And by the end of the day, we had a brand new client with a very strange story. And all of this led back to that crow landing right in front of me. Just a domino effect of high strangeness. But that's just one of the few things that's happened. And Pam, I think, is going to kill her computer.
Chat is now fixed.
Yay!
So got our chat up.
Okay, chat's fixed.
Chat's fixed. So let me get the I'm working on getting our slideshow up.
Okay.
So we can do the what the weird word. Thank you, Jess, for covering all that. You did a fabulous job. I was
well, thank you.
So I don't know if Jess told you, but prior to us coming on, my computer, we got on. I heard Jess say hi and was like, that's strange. It's not coming through my headphones. Changed one setting, lost all communications completely. We were like on the phone trying to get stuff fixed. So yeah. So this is our harbinger and omen for the evening.
Yes.
We're just going to wing it. It's not, yeah, we didn't, usually we have a little bit more finesse with this, but not tonight, but it's okay.
Yeah, the harbingers and omens were not allowing it. So,
Nope. The gods are laughing at us. Okay, so our what the weird word of the week. I thought it was pretty fitting to go with harbingers and omens since that's really what we're discussing. And a harbinger is normally referred to in the context of a harbinger of death, and it serves as to symbolize or foreshadow the arrival of death, acting as a precursor or a sign of impending doom. And then we have an omen, which is also called a portent. It is something that is believed to be a sign of how a future event may turn out. So I guess our harbingers and omens this evening have already happened. Hopefully that was it. We're going to knock on wood.
yep. Oh, Enzo has kindly stated if anyone can't see the chat, they're going to need to refresh your stream. Sometimes it won't pick it back up again. You might have to pull out of it and then go back in again, and then the chats will pop up for you. Thank you, Enzo. And let's see here. Hello to Alicia and Ginger. In is back. Yay. You're going to have a fun time with us tonight. I hope you have your beverage ready. Julie's here.
Hi, Julie. Hi, Julie. Hi, Enzo. Hi, Tim. Tim's here. Hi,
Oh,
Ian.
Tim's here. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Ginger. There's Alyssa. Wow. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us because we're not flustered at all.
Not. I love that In thinks that we had an auspicious start. It was a very polite way of putting that bag of garbage that just
That was a hot
fell out.
10 minutes.
Oh, well.
The strangest thing, and if you've ever used StreamYard, which I know Enzo has for sure, you'll understand. I never saw the intro, not once. And just said it played like 3 times. It stopped and
It
started
did.
and played through. Never saw it, and I'm running it. That's
It's
weird.
I think we're getting ready to walk into something pretty crazy. So everybody hang tight, and I hope that you don't watch us burn down.
Ooh, I'm just hoping my notes come up because if my notes don't come up, this could be really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, my notes came up. Yay!
Yay.
All right. I think we are ready. So, how do you want to start tonight, Jess? We've done the what the weird word. You've done housekeeping so far. Do we want to just jump straight in with harbingers?
I think we can. So just so everybody here at home knows, we have huge listings of these. Of course, every culture there is and ever was had bad omens and good omens, bad luck, good lucks, and harbingers, every single one of them. So obviously Pam and I couldn't even possibly touch a small portion of what there really is, but we've both pulled the bigger ones, a lot maybe you've heard of before, maybe some that you haven't heard of. And I think what we're going to do is we're just going to one of us is going to start, and we're just going to start popping back and forth because we're going to find that a lot of these kind of touch the other ones. We're going to hear a lot about hellhounds tonight, and the black dogs with red eyes. Nearly every culture has one of those, oddly enough.
They do, which is strange.
Yeah, I don't know. But I'll go ahead and start with one. And I have a picture. I don't know if Pam got her thing pulled up or not. This is the Nain Rouge.
Yeah, hang on just a second. Let me. Okay, I'm just going to have to stream through them because.
There it is.
There he is.
There he is. Isn't he pretty?
He's
like a sunburned, I don't know what.
A sunburned garden gnome, maybe? Or a torched one? I don't know.
Maybe. I don't know. So this scruffy little sunburnt dude hails from Detroit, Michigan. Interestingly enough. And it's just for this town. This is one of the little oddities that I found. He's a legendary creature of misfortune. So They call him a shambling, red faced creature with cold, glittering eyes and sharp teeth protruding from a grinning mouth. Legend tells that the Nain Rouge's appearance would precede terrible events for the white people of the city and foretell success for the indigenous people. So there's actually been sightings of this particular little creature. July 30th, 1763, he appeared before the Battle of Bloody Run. 58 British soldiers were killed by Native Americans. It was said to have danced among the corpses on the banks of the Detroit River, and the river turned red with blood for days after.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Two utility workers reported seeing the Nain Rouge just before the 1967 Detroit riots. Reports came in before the ice storm of 1976, and there were sightings before the 1805 fire. June 11th, most of the city was burned.
Wow.
Yeah, but he only hails from Detroit, Michigan. Interesting.
That is strange.
Yeah.
Huh.
All right, Tag, you're it.
Okay, I'm going to back up. And I'm going to go with an oldie but goodie if I can get my... Ah, there she is. Banshees.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, the banshee, she's a fairy. She is a female spirit, and they normally are found by rivers. They can appear as an old hag or a young, beautiful woman. And she's always pretty much been seen as an omen of death and only cried for specific Irish families, and often stayed with that family for generations. Now, in Ireland and Scotland, it was once traditional for women to wail or keen at funerals or at Irish wakes, which the keen of the banshee, that's what inspired that particular term. And hearing her cry signaled that there was a death nearby. Now, there's alleged reports of hearing banshee ghosts from back to 1893, but there's also reports of banshee I think the earliest I found was when it was transferred from oral to written tradition was in the 800s, maybe. It's quite a ways back, but they were oral way before that. Nobody really knows where it started for sure. According to legend, there's the 6 big families of Ireland, which would be the O'Neills, the O'Donnells, the O'Connors, the O'Learys, and the O'Tooles, and the O'Connas. Each one had a female spirit that would act as a harbinger of death for that particular line. And apparently they looked at it like she had foresight. So she would come in and start weeping for the loss in the family before the loss ever happened. So if they heard this keening, they would be like, on guard. Okay, somebody in the family is getting ready to pass. It's normally the head of the family, or it would normally be one of the more, I can't remember how they put it. It was like, I don't want to say righteous, but more pious members. It was going to be somebody that was a big deal in the family. It wouldn't be just like, so one of the lower members, or however you would want to call him. But what I think is interesting that according to Celtic folklore, a banshee ghost would sometimes perch on a windowsill in the form of a bird, which she would remain in that position and in that form for several hours or even days until the death came. And often when the banshee would escape, you would hear it through a fluttering of wings. So it'd be like how wings sound when a bird flutters off. That they would hear that. So that led a lot to believe that the banshee was more of a type of bird-like creature too. They also wail in areas like woods and rivers and at rock formations. And in Waterford, Monaghan, and Carlow, there's wedge-shaped rocks that are actually called banshee chairs, which I thought that was neat. I tried to find pictures of them, and I was unable to. I'm sure they're out there. I just was not able to locate them. She does appear in a 14th century text. I'm going to completely tear this up. Shode Gale. Such traditions, they included poems and nursery rhymes and limericks and superstitions and things like that. So sightings of banshees, they have been reported throughout history quite infrequently, though. They aren't a huge, you don't see them all the time, basically. Um, but it does say that if one is seen, that it will disappear inside of a cloud of smoke or mist. And the only evidence that it was ever there was, again, the flapping of wings. But just this, I wanted to point that out because the cloud of smoke or mist, it makes me think of Time Storm,
Yeah,
like maybe she's slipping dimensions or something. I thought that was kind of an interesting
it is.
little thing to throw in there. Now, let's see. When there's a question about whether she's Fae, but it's a question if she's one of the Tuatha De Danann or if she's one of the others. And the Milesians were the last race to settle in Ireland, and they're the group that the modern Irish people have originated from. And now the Milesians are descended from the Gaels, which is an older Irish race that sailed from Spain, from Hispania to Ireland, like through hundreds of years of travel. Now, according to some myths, they never actually fought with the Tuatha De Danann, but instead agreed to split the land between them. So the Milesians took the natural world above ground, and the gods, or the Tuatha De Danann, took the land below. And so you've got fairy trees, water, and burial mounds that are said to be the entrance from one world into another. So I thought that was really kind of neat because I didn't realize. I mean, I knew that there was a battle and that the Milesians had conquered them, but I didn't realize there was another story where they had actually agreed to split.
Hmm.
So I don't know. That was neat though.
Interesting.
But
It
you've got
is.
the banshee and you've also got the binya, which is the other picture that you see up here. And it's the Scottish form of a banshee. And she's also called the fairy washerwoman. So you may see her, if you may come upon her washing clothes, and it's said that she's washing the blood out of the soon to be deceased so that they can travel on, to the next world. Um, Now, the washerwoman is said to have been a woman that had died in childbirth, and that she has to wash clothes until what time her natural life would have ended. Um, it's kind of morbid. It's all kind of morbid, though, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's see here. And this is wild. She's described in some tales as having one nostril, one big protruding tooth, and webbed feet, and being dressed in green. Um, she don't mess her up with Jenny Green Teeth though. That's a different fae.
Mm.
She's one that'll grab you in and drag you underwater.
Ooh, fun.
Um, yeah, super exciting. Now the Binya is believed to be a harbinger of death as well, and a foreteller of misfortune. And her appearance at a ford, that's going to be an omen that somebody nearby is soon going to meet their demise, not necessarily a family member. She's known to wail and keen mournfully, expressing grief for the impending loss. And in some tales, she's also seen as a guardian of sorts, warning those who encounter her of their own impending fates. So, pretty cool. I did run across some
Yeah.
interesting stories about him too, but yeah, we'll run through those if we have time at the end, since we got started.
Okay.
So, your turn.
All right. So I actually have several Welsh versions of the Banshee. But I'm going to go ahead and let's do Flying Dutchman. We'll keep it all broken up so we're not stuck on one topic for very, very long. There we go. Everybody knows the Flying Dutchman, right? Especially if you're a big fan of like Pirates of the Caribbean and stuff like that. And some people don't realize that it's a real thing. Um, Disney just latched
Jenny
onto
Green
it.
is a Lancashire legend. That's cool.
Awesome. So the Flying Dutchman. This is an 18th century legend, and it still applies today. It's still supposedly seen even today. This is, of course, the legendary Phantom ghost ship. It's never able to make port, and it's doomed to sail the seas forever. And it tends to pop up anytime there's rough seas or too calm of seas. It the original report, I finally found it. It took me forever to find the dang thing. It's the original report found a voyage to Botany Bay, 1795. It was the report was written by George Barrington. They credit it to a Dutch man of war lost off the Cape of Good Hope. This is what they think he based it off of. So everyone on board that boat perished, having come to the Cape in distress under weather, and they wanted to get into harbor but couldn't get a pilot to conduct the boat in, and crashed and wrecked. Since then, she appears in times of bad weather. Actually found a really famous sighting of it that I thought was interesting. I'd never heard of before. Prince George of Wales, who of course was the future king, in 1881 on July 11th at 4 a.m. in the morning off the coast of Australia, right before they suffered a damaged rudder. I wrote down what he wrote in his journal. The Flying Dutchman crossed our bows, a strange red light as of a phantom ship all aglow. They all moved forward to better see, but it had disappeared once they arrived there. At 10:45 a.m., a seaman who was charged with reporting the sighting of the Dutchman fell from the foretopmast cross trees onto the top gallant forecastle and was smashed to atoms. So, Harbinger, yep. Kind of crazy. One of the best known ghost ships to sail the seas and is apparently still sailing them. I can't hear you, Pam. Yeah. Oh no. We've lost Pam's sound again. Unfortunately. Let's just make sure it. All of you that are listening, can you hear Pam? Just let me know. I'm going to keep talking.
Yeah, let's try a muting. Maybe that would work.
Oh. Okay. I'm sure y'all can hear her now. Oh yeah. My gosh.
Wow.
See, we're talking about these harbingers and everything is messing up. We should go back to the last one where we're just talking about Mothman, because apparently he'll leave us alone.
No joke. My blood pressure has to be through the roof. Look how red my face is.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Tag, you're it.
Oh my gosh. Well, now I'm scared to touch anything. Okay. So let's switch over to this. I thought this was an interesting one, and I'm going to tear up this name. Sorry. It's the drummer of Cortachy, Cortachy. Some families are lucky or unlucky enough to merit a little fanfare before they depart this world of sorrows. So in Ireland, you've got the banshees that give the wailing lament for those who are about to die. And there's, a few of the important families have banshees. But this is what happened to the Ogilvy family of Scotland. They were the owners of Cortachy Castle in Angus.
Enza says Mothman loves us and will give us Mothman brand potato chips.
Yay!
True that.
That's funny. So there's this family that's in Scotland. They were the owners. Their name was Ogilvy, and they were the owners of Cortachy Castle in Angus. They didn't have a weeping woman as their own personal death omen. What they had was a drummer. So, there's legends. They vary, of course. But the basics are that there was some poor guy with a drum that angered the Earl of Airlie, Airlie, Arlie, head of the Ogilvy family, possibly because the drummer brought bad news to the castle. So the Earl seems to maybe have overreacted just a tad bit. He had the drummer stuffed into his own drum and thrown over the battlements. So after that, shock, the family was plagued with phantom drumming. Guests at the castle are said to have heard the drummer, but mentioning it to their hosts always causes calamity because the drummer presages a family death. So they don't talk about it, basically, or they did not at the time. It's even rumored that it frightened Ogilvy family members. Sometimes died as a self-fulfilling prophecy after an appearance of the drummer. So it basically scared them to death. However,
Oh,
no
wow.
drumming has been heard since about the year 1900. So, it's thought perhaps the ghost decided he was sufficiently revenged and finally drummed his way into the afterlife. I thought was pretty wild. But I had not heard of that one. I
That's
thought that was kind of neat.
wow.
And I have another short one. Do you want me to do it real quick?
Go for it.
This one's called Radiant Boys. Have you heard of this?
I have not.
So I thought it was interesting. Um, so basically, there's some homes, like if you're a guest in a grand house or a castle, and you're sleeping in this, the story that I pulled from is very flowery. So um, you're asleep in a lovely room with a blazing fire in the fireplace, right? But in the middle of the night, you wake up and you see this glowing light, and you're realizing it's not the fire. Instead, it's like this incredibly beautiful young boy surrounded in this golden light, dressed in white, and he looks like an angel. Um, but after a few moments of gazing at you, he floats over to the cold fireplace and disappears. So, what is this all about? The stories on this is interesting in the way that the reactions that the people who see it have. They're absolutely terrified. So you would think if you saw this, beautiful child spirit, you wouldn't be so scared. Um, that tells you something about the vibes that these kids are giving off. So what the Radiant Boys are, they're actually omens of bad luck and violent death. And in some versions of the legend, someone who's seen a radiant boy will ascend to great power before losing it all in a terrible fall from grace, followed by death.
Oh,
Um,
no.
right. And in the stories, frightened guests flee their host home the next morning and cannot be convinced to return. So why are these golden boys so dangerous? It's because they represent innocence and purity meeting a dreadful betrayal and a death. They're the ghosts of boys that had been murdered by their own mothers.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that wild? I ran
That is
across that.
crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That's wow. That's very it's kind of like smudging into Black-Eyed Kids.
A little
Um
bit. Yeah. That's what I can.
Another thing considered to be a harbinger, Black-Eyed Kids. A lot of
Mhm.
people think they're bad harbingers.
It's interesting how closely a lot of these tie into other things. And it may end up being just a idea of it being, how we've always said that the separation of the camps, you have the camps of the UFO hunters, the ghost hunters, and the cryptid hunters, that they all may experience the same thing, but they just have different names for it. I kind of wonder if
Hmm.
some of these, there's some crossover like that. You only can describe what information you personally have to pull from. So if you don't have the idea of this particular thing, like if you saw a Bigfoot and didn't have the idea of what it would be to pull from, you might say it was, a red-eyed demon thing, and it may end up being the thing from Detroit.
Yeah.
I don't
Crazy
know.
stuff.
It is.
All right. Ooh, pull up. We'll do a hellhound one. Pull up. You said you had a picture of a hellhound.
I do. I have a couple of.
Let's just pull one up.
Okay.
Okay. This is kind okay. So, I'm sure a lot of people have heard of the red dogs of Morpha. Have you heard of the red dogs of Morpha?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, I have always thought this one was interesting, and this gave me a good excuse to kind of dig into it a little bit deeper because I knew there was more to the tales than just some crazy demon dogs running through a village, right? So, the red dogs of Morpha were once thought to be the ghosts of dead animals or witches' familiars, pure black with glowing red eyes, and show themselves to people who are destined to die within the year. But there's a little bit more to it than that. I actually found an actual case where they were seen readily, and this really happened. So it's the Morpha mine disaster, actually. This happened on March 10th, 1890, in South Wales. 87 miners were killed in a huge gas explosion. Now, interestingly enough, 2 weeks prior to that, for about 14 days out, they said, the entire village started reporting weird sounds all times of day and night. The sounds of knocking, they would see apparitions, ghosts in and outside of their houses. They started having bad feelings and were worried. And then the ghost dogs and the morpha dogs started running the village ragged at night. And then the explosion happened, and then it went dead after that. Oh my goodness. Could you imagine that? There's like 30 harbingers and omens all thrown in at once. They were desperately trying to let this town know.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
Chelsea just jumped on.
Cool.
I have a couple of
while
hounds. Do you want to do another one and then I'll give you some of my stories too?
Yeah, because I have a little short one that kind of goes with this. So, I was talking about that they were hearing the strange knocking sounds. Well, was often reported by miners, people who worked in caves type of situations. They have, and I'm gonna try to pronounce this. Let's see here. They're mine goblins, is what they are, but they're called Koblenai.
Huh.
I hope I'm saying that right, Koblenai. And also the Nokars, or the Knockers, as they would have been translated into English. And they are the bad harbingers for miners. They're basically the the American version is the Tommy Knockers. So
Yes.
if you all know at home what the Tommy Knockers are. So this is also what the miners in I just lost the name of it. Morpha
Oh, yeah.
were hearing. They were hearing the Koblenai and the Knockers, along with all that other stuff. Isn't that insane?
That is crazy.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right.
My turn?
Your turn.
All right. So I'm going to talk a little bit about hellhounds too. So we've got them. They're the mythological canine creatures, right? They're often depicted as the demonic or monstrous dogs. They're associated with hell, the underworld, or the supernatural. And they're frequently portrayed as guardians of these realms, right? Or as maybe servants of dark entities. So we've got examples like Cerberus, which is from Greek mythology, and Garmer, which is from Norse mythology. Ooh, I can't talk tonight. So I wanted to put Cerberus up here for sure because you may also know that one as Fluffy from Harry Potter, because Fluffy is a three-headed dog that Hagrid had gotten from some Greek chap, which I love. He could be lulled asleep with a lullaby, and he guarded the trapdoor to the Philosopher's Stone in J.K. Rowling's story. So they in some depictions they resemble like specific breeds, more like Dobermans or wolves or things like that. But their symbolism comes from death, evil, and the dangers of the supernatural world. So besides Cerberus and Garmer, there's other examples. We've got the black dogs of English folklore, like what Jess has been talking about. We've got the fairy hounds of Celtic mythology. And even in the TV series Supernatural, they're depicted as demonic pit bull-like creatures that serve demons. So they've been used in a lot of fun different ways in a lot of different shows and movies, which I think is pretty cool.
And why wouldn't you? What's scarier than a black dog with red glowing eyes?
No joke.
Creepy.
Anyway, is that all I had on it? I thought I had more than that. Maybe I don't.
So input, Tommy knockers are, it says peculiar. That's not what he meant.
Yeah.
To Cornish tin mines, when that industry was winding down to the southwest, UK miners would immigrate and take the legends with them. Very interesting, Ian. Thank you. Yeah, if you all know of something, like what we're talking about, or have a version of it that you've heard, let us know. We'll throw it up
Absolutely.
here.
Throw it at, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So, um, the next one, do you want to do one or do you want me to do a different one?
I can do one. So, uh, I've got one. You can leave it on here.
Okay.
It's another version. This is the a Welsh version. Oh my gosh, I can't even talk tonight. So, and I've got to pronounce this one correctly too, because it doesn't sound a whole lot like it's spelled. So, a gwishki, I believe is how it's pronounced. A gwishki, or the dog of darkness. It has a shaggy coat, red eyes, and as a death omen. Often seen on long stretches of lonely road, so you don't want to run into it. I don't know if I have a picture of it. I might, because it's like a hellhound, but it's shaggier. I think I might have.
You sent me one. Let me find it. There
Yeah,
he
right
was.
there. Yeah, they're shaped a little bit different,
He almost has
but
a
very, very
hand
shaggy.
shape.
Yeah, but you can see how like it's spelled. It looks like it's like Gwilgi or something like that. It's actually a Gwishki, or at least that's what I found online. If I'm saying that wrong, whoever's listening, blame it on the internet.
Oh, blame it on our crazy moth dog. That is hilarious. Enzo called it moth dog. You're not
Why
far
not?
off. So if you're listening to us, you might, well, I don't really want anybody to have to suffer through this particular episode. Goodness. Or you might because it's really interesting how it's working out with us.
Maybe.
Talk about harbingers. Whew.
Oh, here's an interesting one. Uh, I sent you a picture that has just lights in it. It's like an illustration.
Yes. Here.
Yeah, that one right there. So let's move. There's all sorts of light, good and bad omens too, and
Mm.
harbingers. So these are called candle corpse or corpses candles. And actually, Pam and I kind of got a little introduction to this through Pat Fitzhugh, who does Bell Witch.
Yeah.
This is a big thing in the South, and I am very sure it's probably because it came over with those particular people down south and became a part of the legends in that area. But we thought these were super interesting. We'd never really heard of them. They're a little like a will o' the wisp type of a situation, but a little bit different too. So these, if you see them, foretell of your imminent death. They appear as single lights or clusters sometimes. Their size are relative to the age or the size of their victim, and they follow the direct path the subsequent funeral procession will take. If the doomed is female, it glows blue, and if the victim is male, it glows red. Could you imagine seeing those pop up, and then you watch which route your funeral procession's going to take? Isn't that crazy?
That's not scary at all.
No.
Yes. Chelsea said one of my hellhound tales is, I think, a story from England of a witch who would haunt a castle area with her hellhound, who was described more as a black Irish wolfhound. That's cool.
That is cool.
Hi, Ken. Ken's in here too now.
Hi, Ken.
They do kind of look like fairies, don't they? The little
They do.
the little lights. Interesting. Okay, let me switch back in pictures here. Oh, there he is. So this wild guy, his name's the Dullahan. He's a headless horseman of Celtic folklore, and he's considered a harbinger of death. But unlike others who are messengers, he's death itself, summoning the souls of the dying. So he's a type of fairy, which we're seeing all through this. And he looks like a dude riding a black horse, which wouldn't be horribly scary, except for the fact that he has no head. He's carrying his skull in his hand, to kind of see his way. It's just not to his neck. And he's not doing that in this particular picture, but he's also supposed to pull a cart decorated with funeral stuff that's made of human bones and skin. And then, as you can see, he has a whip made of a human spine, which is wild. Ooh.
I was going to ask about that. I was like, is that a spine he's holding? Blech.
And so, as for what he does, similarly to like what a banshee does, he's a harbinger of oncoming death. But unlike the banshee, he actually calls for the spirit of the person who's about to die rather than just signaling that it's about to happen. And he does this by speaking the name of the person, which is the only time he's allowed to speak. And he can only do that one time per journey. Now, unlike death, the Dullahan does actually have a weakness, and that's gold. An example from this, there's this tale that I found. It was from County Galway. So there's this guy, and he's walking home one night, and he's just kind of rambling along. He's minding his own business when all of a sudden he hears hooves beating against the ground behind him, right? So sure enough, there's a Dullahan there. And as I think any of us would react when confronted with the headless harbinger of our own mortality, right? He screams bloody murder and he runs away. And the Dullahan, though, is still gaining on him and would have caught him if not for one thing. A gold pin fell from this guy's shirt. And the Dullahan roars and then he disappears. It's because it's kind of like if you think about, I can't remember which fairy it is that if you spill the salt, they have to pick up every grain before they can chase you. It's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
that. If gold falls or if gold is put in front of them, that's the one thing that can stop them because they have to have it. Um, so the Dullahan actually does have some influence in literature and other art forms. So you may kind of have an idea of the Headless Horseman of Sleepy Hollow, right? That's what it's based on, as the
Mm-hmm.
Dullahan. Um, it's really strange though, because not only did it pop up in American literature, it's also popped up in Japanese pop culture too. It's both in the Final Fantasy and the Devil May Cry series. They both have enemies that are named for this aberration. So I thought that was kind of cool. But there's an anime series called Durara. I don't know. Urara. Features a female Dullahan as its protagonist, which is kind of cool. Julie said, "How
Enzo said, weird, a cross between the Headless Horseman and the Predator.
right? Yes." And Julie said, "How about fake gold?" I would assume he could probably tell the difference, but I don't know. I'm not sure. I'd try it if I had real gold. I'd probably throw that.
And Enzo said, then your skin turns green because
Oh,
of the fake
that's
gold.
hilarious. That's funny. Ian said, "Pretty sure if I was riding a horse carrying a human spine, the police would have had something to say about that." Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Perhaps.
Too funny. But no, I thought that was pretty cool. I did not realize that the Headless Horseman was based on anything called the Dullahan until I ran across that.
I didn't know either.
We're learning all kinds of fun stuff.
See, we're an educational program. I couldn't even say that with a straight face.
Ken said, "I can hear Monty Python clapping coconuts right now." The horse trot.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Oh my goodness.
Ken, you missed all the fun, the kerfuffle before you joined in. Mm.
Okay, I'm going to do another version of the Banshee. So, could you go to the picture? It
Yeah.
looks like it starts with a C. Yeah, that right there. Looks like Wraith, but it's not. It's called a Kaharith. Yeah,
Okay.
Kaharith, I believe. Yeah. So it doesn't look like anything it's spelled like. So this is ancient Welsh. It's a being who is said to reside in the mountain fog. So we're going to get very banshee. This is going to be extraordinarily close. Very ugly, torn, disheveled hair, long black teeth, lank and withered arms and claws, and leathery bat-like wings. She has a horrible wail, rarely seen, but if heard, is deadly to the hearer or their loved ones. When she is seen, she comes in the fog and beats her wings against the victim's windows. Very banshee. I think this is probably just something that, made its crossover.
Mm-hmm.
They also have another one very close. It's called the Hag of the Mist. And oh my gosh, I'm going to try to pronounce this. Grach-a-Ribbon, I think it is. Grach-a-Ribbon. It's basically the Irish banshee, only the Welsh version of it. She also has huge leathery wings. And then there's the Darrencore, another version of it, who also beats its wings on windows and doors. So, like, the Welsh have like four versions of the same thing. I think it probably just depends on what area you're from and who your family were,
Hmm.
basically.
More than
So,
likely.
holy cow. Yeah. In fact, I would think if we were to dig into it, I think a lot almost all cultures and civilizations have a version of the banshee. I mean, even in the States, we have the woman in white
Mhm. La
who
Llorona too.
cries. Yeah, La Llorona, Baby Bridge versions, all,
Mhm.
the wailing woman. Um,
Yeah.
she lives in swamps. She lives underneath the bridges in the water. She, you know, hangs out in cemeteries and, you know, the white woman.
Ken asks, are there only certain instances or situations whereby these omens appear? Normally, it's to foretell a death or some horrible downfall of someone. A lot of them, like the banshees, most of them are tied to certain specific Irish families, but not always. We just talked about the Binia out of Scotland, which aren't particular to, some of them are with specific families, but not all of them. So it doesn't always mean if you hear it, your family member is going to die. It could mean that someone in the community is going to die too. All right. Um, I have, let me switch. We keep going over this one picture, so I'm going to go back to it. Here he is, the Death Watch beetle. And
Yay!
if you've watched the movie Practical Magic, you may have heard, that's how Sally knows her husband's going to die. She hears the death watch beetle. Actually, that's how all the women know that their spouse is going to die is they hear the ticking of the death watch beetle. Um, so this little dude, uh, we're looking at this is a fear of animals acting like they normally should, which is, of course, the death watch beetle. This little guy lives in old wooden houses and makes a ticking noise to attract mates. And what's interesting about this, the problem is obviously that these noises imitate one of the most common supernatural signs of impending death, which is knocking on the wall. But you can also attribute that to like Tommy knockers and things like that. You've got the ticking, the knocking in the mines, you've got the knocking on the wall, and then you've got this little death watch beetle that makes ticking noises just to attract mates. But I had never seen one, and I found these pictures of them. They're pretty wild looking. I
Yeah,
thought
I
they
don't
were.
want to hear one of those.
Ian said the early form of the Welsh language is Brythonic, still fairly common in the Dark Angus Anglo-Saxon period, was based on pre-Roman Celtic. Interesting.
Huh.
I probably said that wrong. Sorry.
I'm sure In's having fun listening to us tonight.
And Ken said, interesting. So those apparently run in family circles and not just the general public. For the most part, some of the banshees are tied with specific families. But again, there's different. And we talked too about the beignets. Now it sounds like some French dessert, doesn't it? Um, I can't pronounce anything. I'm so sorry. It sounds right in my head when it tries to come out of my mouth with a Southern Kansas accent. Nope, all bets are off. Um, but Ken, you missed the part where we were talking about sometimes they're heard as the flapping of wings like a bird, and they'll sit in the sill of a window disguised as a bird for days on end until the person dies that it's there for. So it's not always tied to families. Now, the keening banshee itself normally is. And what's interesting about the banshee, too, that we didn't talk about, some of them did follow families that had immigrated over to like the United States or North America. And they've pretty much died out now. You don't really hear a lot about them. It's like as the old family of the family line died out. So it's almost like the banshee loses its steam. You know, it just kind of goes away after a while. And Alicia just asked, are they in the U.S. as well as overseas? Yeah, yeah. I can't. I'm hungry now. Beignets. Enzo said, while looking up the salt/fey lore, I ran across how vampires need to count every grain of rice spread across the doorway, which is the core of why the count from Sesame Street is always counting. Yep.
Go.
Yep. That's fun. Fun.
All
Okay.
right. Okay, so I'm going to move away from animals and bugs for just a little bit because I found some really interesting stuff. I talked to Pam about this on the last show. Uh, I found a lot out of whales. Holy cow! The amount of stuff I found out of whales is incredible, and I have a couple here that I thought were just so interesting. So they have these things called the passing bells, and they involve several churches in the area that have these bells that are said to sometimes toll on their own off the hour when a death in the parish is imminent. And apparently happens all the time. It's 2 or 3 churches within the Wales area that do this. Could you imagine, like being part of a village and suddenly hearing the bells ringing off the hour and knowing somebody was getting ready to kick it?
Goodness. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
scary.
it is. They also have I have it under church windows because I didn't really know how to apply this. So this has to do with 2 churches in particular. If you peer through the windows on certain dates, you'll see the spirits of those who will die in the coming year manifested within its pews. Oh my goodness. I don't think I'd
Wow.
be looking in the windows.
No joke. That's scary.
Yeah,
Chelsea said the Welsh have an insane history, lore, and language. Yes, they do.
they do. So, and the last one I'm going to do on that are these phantom funerals. So, witnesses see a ghostly funeral procession foretelling the death of a loved one, the procession taking the same route as the actual funeral. They are warned not to look into the casket as they would see their own body,
Oh,
and death will follow soon after.
ugh,
So, you have a chance of seeing this, and you dare not look in the casket because then it'll end up being you.
that's freaky.
It is. They should be writing some like horror flicks off of some of these old legends.
No joke. That would keep you, yeah. That would, oh my gosh. That's pretty
Yeah.
wild. Now, we were talking about black dogs and hellhounds, and I said I had another story about one that I couldn't find. I just ran across it. And it's also based out of Wales. And it's the Cwnanwn, on
Mm-hmm.
Cwnanwn, Cwnannwn. I looked up the pronunciation. That's how it's supposed to sound. I don't know. It's a white dog with glowing red eyes, and it's said to predict death within days. That's the first that I had run across a white dog. I thought that was interesting. A little different. Chelsea said, I feel I've heard similar phantom funerals in the deep South New Orleans area. Yeah, you have. And Ian
Yeah.
said, I lived in Wales for a year. Odd place, lovely, but I didn't see anything like that. And I may have told this story on here before. A lot of when I was working on genealogy, there was quite a bit of my family that comes from Wales. And my son was in the same room as I was. He was only 8 or 9, and he was playing a video game, and he was not really paying attention to me. And so I was talking to him, and I was like, "Yeah, our family's from Wales." And he was like, "Wales? I thought we came from monkeys." And I was like, "Oh, dude, I've
That's
never let
great.
him. Yeah, I've never let him live that down ever. He will never live it down." Alicia said, "I'd probably die of a heart attack just seeing a ghost funeral." Right? That would be freaky.
Yeah.
Okay, let me switch to my notes here. I do have a couple of other types of animals too. You've got your what I would call normal, and it's normal for our area probably. You've got your harbingers, which is like the blackbirds that have long been associated with death and seen as ill omens, um, because they're scavengers and they're dark plumage, you know. So you've got your buzzards, which in some folklore, a buzzard circling overhead is seen as a sign of impending death. But honestly, a buzzard circling overhead means something's already died,
Yeah.
you know. You've got
Mm-hmm.
sparrows, which some European folklore suggests that sparrows are harbingers of death, with superstitions like a sparrow flying into a window being a sign of death. Well, it's probably a sign of death for the sparrow, honestly. Um, and then in some parts of the UK and the United States, for sure, black cats crossing one's path is considered a death omen. Um, I've always had black cats, so I hope I don't see it as that. But yeah, a lot of people do. And then you've got your crows and your owls. They're often associated with death and appear in many cultures as harbingers of ill fortune. And you've got your eyes, which are in Madagascar, and they're primates. They're seen as harbingers of death, and locals may try to kill them on sight, which is pretty wild. And then, you know, you've got your other animals that are just normal animals seen doing strange behavior, like a hen crowing or a cow trampling a garden, that can be interpreted as a sign of impending death. Tim said that beetle's definitely creepy looking. He kind of is, isn't he?
Yeah. It's probably how I got his name.
Yeah.
That, and I'm sure that that tapping is just annoying as heck.
Ooh, Ken said, I saw an old station wagon hearse in my rearview mirror once at Bellefontaine Cemetery. And when I turned around to get a better look, it was not there. Might this have been a phantom funeral? It absolutely
Ooh.
could have been. That's pretty wild.
Or it was just Rob Zombie driving through.
Oh, maybe, yeah, maybe so. Julie said, black cats are sweet. They are sweet. And Ian said, I'm forever tripping over my black cat, only dead on the inside so far. Terrible. Ken said, it wasn't my funeral because it was like 3 or 4 years ago and I'm still here. Yay.
That's good news.
Too funny.
All right. So let's I sent you a picture of a castle or a grand estate type.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This one I thought was just really interesting, and I actually went back and looked, and I don't have it here. But I looked up the actual history of it, and this is absolutely true, or at least it's been recorded generation after generation after generation in separate people's journals and stuff. So this is called the Gormanston Estate. And this one is called the Gormanston Foxes. This is in Ireland. This is attributed to just the Viscounts of Gormanston. So the legend states that before the head of the house dies, the foxes from the surrounding countryside congregate at the front door of this castle. So I actually went back and looked because I thought, well, that just sounds like a little family legend that was made up because somebody really liked foxes, or maybe they were hunters and they hunted fox.
Yep.
But it's absolutely true. I found no less than 11 separate journal entries, family stories from like Aunt so and so or cousin so and so through the centuries. And this has happened before every head of the household has passed, every Viscount. There is even a journal entry I found from a local vicar who knew that he was actually friends with this gentleman and knew that he was dying, and they had told him, you better come and see him soon and maybe give him his last rites because it's getting ready to happen. And he went over very quickly and could not get through the front door for all of the wild foxes. And they had to take him in the back servants' entry to get him into the home because of the foxes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Like the days leading up to their deaths, the foxes from the local area gather in front of the door and then disperse when they pass.
Oh,
Wow.
strange.
Yep. But this is a very recent picture of this place. It still stands and that family still lives there.
Wow. Ken said it looks like a lot of our older universities and schools. It must have been a standard style of the 1800s. Probably, yeah.
Hmm.
That's insane. Huh.
Yeah. I thought it was really super interesting.
That makes me think of, have you ever heard the saying, go tell the bees?
Hmm.
Um, so basically, when the owner of the bees passes, um, those in the family that are left need to go tell the bees that the owner has died so they understand that. And that kind of makes me think that I wonder who told the foxes, go tell the foxes. I don't know. Maybe
Oh, Ian. Oh, Ian said the foxes know there's a funeral buffet coming up. Oh, I would hope that they bury them and don't throw them to the foxes. That would be terrible.
Oof. Ken said foxes standing guard. Wonder if they're guides to the afterlife. Maybe.
Maybe.
Huh, interesting. I don't know.
Maybe they're just excited because the head hunting guy is getting ready to leave.
Maybe.
So they're cheering it on. Yay!
Oh no.
No more fox hunts.
They're like near, 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 near.
Something like that.
Okay.
Okay, let's see here. Well, I'll just go ahead and do one more. So, and because this one's a quick one. So, the basic three knocks, it's almost universal across every continent, across every culture. The three knocks is either a bad omen or a good omen, depending on who and what is delivering it. So, I know here in the States, if you hear three knocks, it's usually a ghost or an apparition or something that shouldn't be there trying to communicate with you or trying to tell you something. But also, on the other hand, it's also good luck if you knock on wood three times. You don't want something to happen or you want what you said to be true. Three
Mhm.
knocks on wood to make sure. I just thought that one was interesting. I hadn't even considered the fact that three knocks is also a harbinger or an omen.
Isn't there a song, Knock Three Times?
On the ceiling if you want me. Yep. Twice on the pipe if the
So
answer is no.
that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Ken said is ready to chase the hunter. I can almost hear the human horn. Odo.
Yep.
Rather hear that than me sing. So, okay. Do we want to move on to like events and symbols? Or do you have any other animals or things that you want to go over?
Yeah, I've got a few. So, pull up the white deer.
Oh, yeah. Let's see him.
Yeah. So, white deer, not only white deer, so you've got white wolves, lions, rabbits, rats, cats, tigers, monkeys. The list goes on, even insects that are good harbingers, good omens across a lot of the UK. Um, I don't know if these are actually like seen in the States. Do you think they're seen in the States? I don't think I've ever heard.
Not that I'm aware of. I know um, uh, there's a white deer that was seen in our area, but that was actually my uncle's deer that he let loose. He let through loose like three white bucks,
Yeah.
and
I
they were
think
seen
these
for
are
a
like
long
yeah, I think these are like seen a little bit more like spectral
spectrum.
type of things. And they, depending on where you're at, could be good or bad. It could be an omen of something getting ready to happen, or it could be an omen of something very great getting ready to happen. There were so many stories that I couldn't write them all down. So I was just like, good or bad. Same thing with black animals across the board. They could be bad, they could be good, depending on where you're from. And I was just kind of poking through my notes here. I mean, there's so many black dogs. Um, oh, I found another one.
While you're
Oh,
looking that up, Julie said seeing a fox can be a spiritual experience, with some believing it represents a spirit guide. That's pretty cool.
oh, that's cool. So the black shuck. is another
Yep.
black dog.
I
Red
have.
eyes, omen of death, especially in Norfolk, Suffolk, Essex, and Cambridgeshire, UK. That area there. I also found in my rooting around in my notes, I found yet another weeper or a banshee.
Oh,
This one's out of Scotland. This one is called Quanyag. It's very similar to a banshee, a harbinger of death, but only within her clan. So if you see her, someone within your clan will die. And her wail is heard only near water and mountainsides. So she's a little different.
yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. And then, of course, Pam and I had gone over these before, the list of birds that are harbingers or good luck. I mean, I had blackbirds, ravens, crows, buzzards, cladrius, nightingale, owls, roosters, hornbills, sparrows, black swans, vultures, cardinals, hummingbirds. Also, butterflies are like good omens. A lot of people report seeing those after a loved one has passed, and that's how you know that they're doing well. But yeah, and then we start getting into like stories and symbols. We had mentioned black eyed kids before. That's a big one. Doppelgangers is another
Yes.
harbinger or omen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, Julie said a white buffalo calf is an exceptionally rare animal, and its birth is considered a sacred event by many Native American tribes. It's true. Very
Mm-hmm.
true. And Ken said white is typically a sign of good fortune unless it's a sheep. And Enzo asked,
I
did these white deer go boing across the road? Like the not a deer, my fantastic um, skills, editing skills. And Alicia said knocking on wood actually started when people would knock on trees to scare away the bad spirits inside them. Yep.
mm-hmm. Yeah. I did know that was German. I believe it's a German origin,
Hmm. Cool. Cool. Cool.
which would make sense why it's so prevalent in the US because we have a ginormous German population across the board.
We do. Do we have any more animals?
Just your basics like frogs and toads, of course. I did find one. It's not animals. I had a little note to myself here. Apparently, in some places, it's good luck if an acorn drops on your head from a tree.
No.
I don't know how good luck that is, depending on the size of the acorn, I guess.
Chelsea said, I forget the name for it, but there's a whole school of augury future reading based around birds that date back to ancient Greeks. I had a friend who studied religion and joked about getting into that. Isn't there? Well, I can't. I have heard that. And Ken said a doppelganger of someone else. Is this an omen or just creepy bad luck? Actually, there's stories of like people waking up, and I know I can recall one story where a husband and wife wake up and their son's standing at the foot of their bed, and they're like, "When did you get back?" And he doesn't say anything, and he just disappears. And they find out later he was killed in the line of duty at pretty much right about the same time that they saw his apparition. And it was like he came back just to tell him goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of stories like that where you see that doppelganger effect as a harbinger of, hey, I'm come to say goodbye, basically, not really to scare anyone, but just to see him one more time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I have a couple of events and symbols. Do you want to do
Okay,
some of those?
go for it.
Okay. So we have, you've got your various cultures. They believe in different omens. So, like some believe if you hear an owl or a coyote or see certain birds or animals acting strangely, that those are all omens of death, regardless of what's happening. Um, Even now in our area, I know a lot of people feel like if an owl flies in front of you, it's a bad omen. But like Jess is completely opposite with her.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Um,
Bring on the crows and the owls.
yep.
Bring them on. And the black cats.
Yes, absolutely. And you've got your death knell, which that term, it signifies something that's heralding a death or destruction, kind of like you were talking about a bell being rung to announce a death by the
Mm-hmm.
churches. Yeah, bells can ring, not just for death, but sometimes it's for destruction that's coming up or things like that too.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got your other death omens that can just basically be summed up as objects acting strangely, meaning like, it's bad to drop soap, spill ink, break a salt shaker, or drop scissors, which land with a point sunk into the floor. Um, and it's also a sign of coming death if a clock stops without reason or, it breaks. Or if a broken clock suddenly starts to work again, that can be seen, because it's a objects acting strangely kind of thing. Or like if a window shade collapses, or a crack forms in a wooden piece of furniture, or if a fire that should have gone out overnight is still burning in the morning. So those are all, pretty general ones. And they could pretty much apply to anybody, like someone who's ill or someone who's healthy but doomed to die by an accident or whatever. So in other words, these particular omens don't have names, but there's some that do, and those that do are really creepy ones. So, like for instance, a portrait of you falls off a wall. That's not a good sign. That immediately
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes you gives you the willies a little bit. And the same with like if someone is making a toast to you and then they drop their glass and the glass breaks. It's like, ooh, that's not good. And again, it's not great if a knife is set spinning on a tabletop and it stops with the blade pointing right at you. Or if you hear a ringing in your ears, which is also called a death bell, or, we call it tinnitus. Um, but yeah, yeah, that's an interesting one. But it's basically just things acting strangely, or, you know, you acting strangely, I guess. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like, let's see. I love this last one. You definitely don't want to discover that you're casting a shadow that doesn't have a head. It's never a good sign. It could always be scary. Let me go over here. Uh, Ian said it's just an acorn, Enzo. Be thankful anvils don't grow on trees. Yeah, no joke. Julie, don't drop soap in prison. Yeah, that's true. Um,
That's for a whole different thing.
be careful under the grand piano trees. Yeah. Enzo said, "Who am I, Wile E. Coyote?" And he said, "Be careful under the grand piano trees."
Yep.
Y'all are fun. Okay. Um, and encounters with certain animals on the road, such as if you see a rabbit on the road, that's supposed to be a bad thing. But if you see a toad, it's supposed to be good, you know. But then we've heard opposite where, toads are supposed to be bad. So starting a journey on a Tuesday was considered to be dangerous. And the timing of thunder, if it happens on Christmas or in different months, there's specific days that it's also interpreted as omens on predicting weather and crops and events. Now, if you receive a good luck token on New Year's Day, or like you find a penny or a needle, or you encounter a rabbit escaping from dogs, these are considered good luck. At the same time, if you encounter a donkey or a raven, that's seen as unlucky. So it seems like you'd spend so much of your time trying to figure out what's good and bad luck.
Yeah. That's no way to live.
No, pretty wild. And there's some celestial events too, like Halley's Comet. Um, it was recorded in the Bayeux Tapestry in 1066. That was viewed as an omen of war, which is pretty wild because that does come around every once in a while. Let's see. Early nut gathering squirrels are thought to indicate a harsh winter. Hmm.
Oh, I have one kind of like that. Apparently, in Scotland, snakes are signals of spring, so you want to see snakes.
Oh,
Yep. Like emerging snakes, that means that spring's on its way. They actually watch for them, so they're good luck.
why am I
The
thinking
only
there's
place
not
in the
enough
world.
Ireland? I was going to say, why am I thinking there's not? Well, wait. Okay, Ian, help us out here. Is that just an old wives' tale, or are there no snakes in Ireland? Is that true? Because didn't St. Patrick drive them out? Or am I just dreaming that? Um, Ken said that I hear seeing images in storm clouds and or seeing them within lightning is out there too. Yeah. And you're right, Ken. Good or bad omen or good or bad meanings are inherent based on the
Mm-hmm.
specific culture. Yeah, that is true. Because I know it's you're supposed to wear, is it white that you're supposed to wear at a wedding here, but it's black that you wear in Japan. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
because white is for death in Japan, so you wear white to funerals.
Yes, that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Struggling here.
Yeah, Ken says seeing a shooting star is good luck, but only if you make a wish.
Mhm.
Sure. Yeah, there's all sorts of like, you could go into like the number 13 and the number 7.
Oh, Ian said that's the legend. I have lived in England and I've never seen a snake in 51 years. Wow.
Holy cow.
That's wild.
That must be nice.
No
I would
joke. We
love
have
to not
plenty
have to
of them
see a
here.
snake.
We have plenty of them here.
Oh, we have too many.
Way too many. And you've got things like objects, like a broken mirror is believed to bring 7 years of bad luck. And you've got your horseshoe that's considered a good luck charm, and it's often hung over doors. And you're supposed to hang it upright to keep the good luck from spilling out of it. A
Hmm.
rabbit's foot is thought to bring good luck and ward off bad luck, but it's really not lucky for the rabbit. Um, oh, and Buddha's mother, I thought this was interesting. Buddha's mother dreamed of a white elephant before his conception and believed that to have foreshadowed his greatness.
Hmm.
Death omen solar eclipse. Yep. Those are the biggies that I have. Do you have any?
Now, I tried to delve. I told Pam this. I tried to delve into like the deities of all the different types of religions and things like that, and that was foreboding.
Mhm.
Um, I don't usually say go to Wikipedia, but go to Wikipedia and just look up good luck, bad luck deities, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Like the list. And of those, they have like sub deities that do their good and bad work for them. Oh my gosh, the list goes on and on. So, totally didn't delve too far into that. Just kind of made a note to myself hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. But nearly every culture has harbingers, omens, and deities that are in charge of all of those. Um, Even the Christian religion kind of has them. If you think about that, about the choir of angels and stuff, and kind of what all their jobs are, it leans kind of that way too. Oddly enough,
It does.
yeah. And
Would you
I went back into some of the Greek and Roman stuff, and they've got all sorts of bugs and animals and stuff that all have the same kind of story. So this is a long, long tradition,
especially
which
like
makes
especially like Greek mythology, because you've got divine intervention coming. It refers to, the active involvement of like your gods and your goddesses in the lives of mortals, like all the time. It's like they had nothing better to do than to, basically just play with people. And I can't remember. I'm trying to think. There was so many. I know you have the fates, you know,
mm-hmm.
um, and there's supposed to be a thin line that ran to every person. And one of the fates was the weaver that basically wove the thread of life for them. And when they snipped it off, that's when that life was extinguished. Um, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff when it comes to them. You've got uh, if you look at divine intervention, you've got things like the gods taking sides in the Trojan War. You've got Athena. Athena gave guidance. You've got like Poseidon. Poseidon's hindrances of Odysseus in the Odyssey. let's see, what else do you have? You've got Zeus's punishment of Prometheus, and you've got Daphne's transformation to escape Apollo. You've got all these different things that were uh, considered divine intervention. Alicia said, I've always been fascinated by Egyptian mythology, especially cats and scarab beetle meanings. Yeah, they have some really interesting things in theirs. And Julie said the number 4 in Chinese, Japanese, Korean languages. The number sounds like the word for death. Oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah, and Tim said there's no snakes native to Ireland. No.
I need to move there.
Right?
Yeah.
Without snakes. I like snakes as much as I like spiders, so What did I do? Hang on.
You took us both off of there. There you go.
I did. Hang on. There we go.
Yeah. So the only other thing that I have was that last time I spoke really quickly about Apollo 13, and I knew there was a little bit more to that situation, so I went ahead and looked it up. So I had discussed the fact that Jim Lovell's wife had a bad omen right before the launch. She had gone back to her hotel room the night before the launch and promptly lost her very snug too small wedding ring down the drain of the shower. Also come to find out, what I didn't realize when I went and looked it up was almost the entire crew got switched out beforehand. Every one of the original crew fell to an illness or something else that took them out of the running to be on the plane. So it was completely switched out. And of course, I want to say his name was it Mattingly, who was the one who got exposed to German flu or something like that, and they would not allow him on because they didn't know if he would get it or not. So that happened. And then the big thing is of course they were all scared because it was Apollo 13 and they refused to rename it or push it back to 14. And actually on the 13th, which would have been the third day of their flight, is when they stirred the cryo tanks and they exploded. It happened on the 13th. So just all of that together was a whole bunch of omens that maybe this shouldn't have happened. Or maybe they should have renamed it. They should have pushed it to 14 or 12 and a half. I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to... It's almost time to start the notebook game. Before we do that, do we want to talk about what we have coming up, or do you want to save that for the very end?
What we have coming up?
Yeah, like this weekend, we're going to be in Geneseo.
I talked about that at the beginning, but I can talk about it again.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, while you were scrambling. Yeah, we can talk about it really quick.
Out. Here, let me share the window here. There we go.
Yay! I'll let you talk about this one.
Okay, so Saturday, Jess and I and Mark and Enzo and Scotty, we're all going to be at Geneseo, Kansas for the Kansas UFO Day. The theme this year is UFO art and culture, and it's going to be a whole fun-filled day. They have a really cool museum up there that's got some really fascinating pieces from like the 40s, 50s, and 60s of early UFO ephemera, basically. And we are actually slated to speak, I believe it's at 11 a.m. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the airship flap of 1897.
Uh-huh.
Am I right? I'm struggling on these.
1896, 1897.
Thank you. And then the Kansas UFO Triangle as well.
Yeah.
So that'll be interesting. And then we're going to do a Q&A session. I believe, if I remember right, it's around 3:00 in the afternoon. But there's going to be another speaker there. He's actually an artist, a photographer that has some really fascinating pieces that he's going to discuss and talk about what he found in the area. And around Kansas and outside of Kansas too, in
Yeah.
regards to UFO art. But there's going to be music and there's going to be vendors, and there's actually a beer garden. There's a parade that they do. This whole little town really gets into it, and it's a lot of fun. And they have a street dance 6 to 9 p.m. So it'll be a good time if you're in the area.
Yeah.
Um,
It's fun. But Pam and I had great fun. We left to go get lunch in the middle of it because last year they lost their food truck. They will have food there this year. But we decided to run into the nearby town really quick, and all along the way, all the farmhouses and stuff were decorated. There's little aliens out on mailboxes, and the
so
whole
cute.
area gets into it. Yeah.
They did. It's really good to see them all, really, really jump in on it and get involved. And then August 2nd, we're going to be at the Kansas City Paracon. It's in Leavenworth, Kansas. We're going to be vending there. They are going to have some really interesting speakers. I know Dustin Perry is going to be there. Josh Cutchin, which is one of my favorite authors. I think it is Jess's too.
Yes.
Rachel Stratton will be there. Brian Murray, David Glidden, and the Signing Paranormal Seekers.
Yeah.
So that'll be a fun day too. Really, really
Yeah.
looking forward to
And
that.
just so you know, David Glidden will be at our Paracon.
Oh, nice.
Hmm.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Very
September
cool.
28th. There we go. Oh, she put the new poster up.
I did. You worked so hard on it. I had to make sure it was on there.
I did. That thing almost killed me today.
So the Southeast Kansas Bordertown Paracon is ready to go. We are full swing getting there. We've got the speakers in place. We got the vendors lined up. Concessions are set. We've got the panels ready to go. Presentations. We've got Brian Terrell's going to come do a workshop. He's from Red Dirt Cryptid. He's a very good friend of ours. Yeah, it's going to be a fun day. It starts at 9 a.m. and we go to 7:30 p.m. and it's back to back. We do have a break for lunch, but other than that,
Yeah.
we have a few breaks in between. And if you are out of the country or out of the area and unable to attend, it will be live streamed too. So you can see it on YouTube, and it'll be here on Bordertown Strange's YouTube as well.
Yeah.
So
And this year, the Caney car show that's usually held on our Mayfest weekend in May, it got moved because they got rained out this year, so they're going to have it on the exact same day. So if you aren't interested in the panel, you can go over and see one of the largest car shows in Southeast Kansas. They have fantastic those old cars and stuff there. It's so much fun. So there's like two things to do in Caney, tons of food and stuff too.
yes. And I didn't mention this, but at our Paracon this year, again, our friend, psychic medium Christy Campbell, she's going to do a free room reading. So if you're interested in that, join in and she might read you that day. And
Yeah.
she will be there to do readings as well after. She's going to be in the morning, I think, or early
Yeah.
afternoon. And then she'll be available for readings throughout the rest of the day, too. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And Enzo, he said, yes, Geneseo is free to, and it's free to tour the museum and listen to the presenters. And there's a lot of merchants selling things. You'll just have to pay if you buy something from the merchants. So, yay.
Unless you can run really, really fast.
Right?
Don't do that. And if you do that, don't tell them I said it.
I'm looking at our comments here. Yeah, Julie, join us. That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're sitting here chit chatting. Everybody knows what to do. Everybody start picking your books and your numbers. Book 1 through 5, pages 1 through 100. Now we'll read whatever is on those pages. Yeah, and like I said, while we're waiting here, Pam and I decided to do fun. What is Ken saying? Ladies, great show and fun. I'll try to watch the beginning soon.
No,
For
don't.
fun presenting this weekend. Don't watch the beginning.
No, please. Have mercy on us. Please don't watch.
Yeah, here in the coming weeks, just for fun, once in a while, I'm just going to throw up on our Facebook page, on the Bordertown Strange Facebook page, a quick little thing saying pick your notebook number and the first one to like and share and put up a name, the number of a book, and the 1 through 100, I will post whatever's on that page. You'll actually get to see my scribble. Won't that be fun?
I think it'll be
I hope
cool.
I hope I wasn't having a stressful day the day I did that notebook page, whatever it is you choose.
It's hilarious.
All
Can I
right, so we've
do?
got Julie wants notebook 3, page 18.
Yes.
Okay, can do that. Um, the Lubbock lights from Lubbock, Texas.
Nice.
First seen on the 21st of August, 1951. At 9:20 p.m., four professors from Texas Technical College, Professor Dr. W.I. Robinson, chemical engineer Professor Dr. A.G. Oberg, physics professor Dr. George, and the head of the petroleum engineering department, Professor Dr. William Ducker, were all hanging out in Robinson's backyard when they all four witnessed a V-shaped formation of 15 to 30 bluish green lights passing overhead. An hour later, they reappeared, but in a more haphazard way. At dusk on that same day, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, about 350 miles from Lubbock, an employee of the Atomic Energy Commission's top secret Sandia Corporation, a man with topmost high-level security clearance, and his wife watched a huge airplane fly quickly and silently over their home with 6 to 8 pairs of soft, glowing, bluish lights flying beside it. A woman in rural Lubbock who went out late to gather clothes drying on a clothesline reported seeing a large object glide swiftly and silently over the house that looked like an airplane without a body, and on the back edge of the wing were pairs of glowing bluish lights. The Texas Tech professor started an informal investigation, citing the lights 12 more times over the course of 2 weeks. Hundreds, what does it say on the next page? Hundreds of reports from all over the area came in. Photos were taken by Texas Tech freshman Carl Hart Jr. on August 31st, and there are pictures available. The phenomenon was looked into by Edward Rupert of the Project Blue Book. The government investigation ultimately blamed it on migrating birds. Yeah,
I
right.
love it. It's either weather balloons or migrating birds.
Yeah,
All
so for you all listening, if you want to go look at the photos, they're actually pretty famous. They're by Carl Hart, H-A-R-T, Jr. Just look up Lubbock Lights, Carl Hart Jr., and you'll find the pictures.
nice.
Yeah. All right. So we UFO lights. That's cool.
Yeah,
All
kind of
right.
goes along with our what were they called? I forgot again. Oh, the
The candle lights are
candles. Yeah.
yeah. Sure. Okay. Get the page flipped around. Oh, okay. This is the part of the listing that we did when we did places and strange weirdness on the 37th parallel.
Julie said migrating birds with flashlights on them.
Sure.
They said that ducks had gotten into oily water and was reflecting the street lights. Are you serious?
Yeah. And that totally explains the phantom looking airplanes that flew completely silent right beside them.
No, that's crazy.
Okay. Places on the 37th parallel. So this just comes from us doing 37th parallel stuff. So I'm just going to read the list. All of these fall dead on or just a hair above or just a hair under the 37th parallel. Alameda Naval Air Base, Trans Air Base, Yosemite National Park, Death Valley, the Uhibe Crater, Crystal Springs, Area 51, the Red Cliff Site, Zion National Park, the Grand Canyon, the Grand Staircase, the El Jato Monument Valley in Arizona, Shiprock, Cedar Hill, New Mexico. And that's where the Roswell Rock is, by the way. Dulce, New Mexico, and the Apache Reservation. Caney, Kansas, which is where we're at. Noxie, Oklahoma, which is where the Noxie monster is. The Spook Light. Mark Twain National Forest with the Treasure Cave. Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Kellyville, Kentucky. That's Edgar Casey and the stomping ground of all the little trolls and stuff. Fort Campbell, Mammoth Cave National Park, Hellier, Kentucky, Flatwoods Monster, Point Pleasant, the CPRI Center for Paranormal, Washington, D.C., McConnell Air Base, Norfolk Naval Base, Fort Knox, Mantell Crash Site in Kentucky, Cape Girardeau, which, of course, was the prelude to Roswell, if you are a fan of aliens.
Yeah, sure was.
Yeah, and that's the list on that page. It's
There's
just a
a
listing, and there's all their where they fall on the 37th.
It's on Scribd, and it's about the Cape Girardeau UFO incident, which happened in the 40s. So it was quite a while, because I think, was it Roswell like 52?
Roswell was 47.
47? Oh, I'm way off. It happened at least a few years before Roswell happened.
It happened in 41. I have a little note to myself down there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Chelsea said, the dream, an actual glimpse of the notebooks.
I don't know how much, probably a nightmare more like it. They'll be like,
Okay,
what
the next
happened
one.
to this girl? What do we got next?
Thanks so much. Enzo, book 4, page 14, please.
Okay. Can do. Ugh. My gosh, these are heavy.
I'm curious to see if the outro will play for me on my end when we
I don't
sign
know.
off.
We'll find out.
It's pretty wild.
So this is crop circles in Arkansas.
Oh, nice.
Crop circles in Arkansas.
Good.
Okay, so what's the one before it? Oh, we'll leave that be. It's long. Okay, so we've got the Noble Circles from Noble, Arkansas, June 7th, 2003. So not extraordinarily long ago. Near a small cemetery, large crescent half moons in a spiral pattern with 4 small circles on one side. Soil samples showed magnetic levels 9 times higher than the soil outside the circle, which is something that is commonly seen. The Delaplane Formation happened June 2007. It looked like a beetle with pinchers on it.
That's wild.
Yeah. The Peach Orchard Formation, June 2003. A bicycle wheel sprocket 100 feet around the center time. Oh, excuse me. Happened around the same time as the Noble Circle. Made of 3 layers of grass, braided over one another. So this is something that we see a lot with these more intricate crop circles, and it's one of the ways you can tell an actual crop circle from one that was man-made. They call it braiding, but what happens is that the circles will lay down several layers of grass, one on top of each other, folded down, and they'll come from different directions as if it was braided or weaved on top.
Interesting.
And some of them are so tightly woven within each other that they can't pull them away. And if you take a look at some of these crop circles that are braided from up above, they glisten because not only do they have that that buildup of calcium and stuff on the leaves, which they also the stems, which they often find, but because they're braided like this, it catches the light and it'll make them sparkle and make them look like they're moving. They're really pretty.
Cool.
I believe there is a picture of that one if you all want to go look it up sometime. It's called the Peach Orchard Formation, and it happened June 2003 in Arkansas. So go take a look.
Hmm.
And the last one on here is the double moon formation. This happened in northeast Arkansas. Two moons back to back, centralized in one ring. The field was never sprayed for weeds, so there were morning glories growing in patches. The weeds were completely unaffected, unlike the crops inside the circles. So these ones were interesting too. They laid down just like a crop circle would, except for they did not lay down the morning glories. The patches of morning glories were perfectly fine inside of these circles. It's really kind of cool. It kind of reminds me, there's a crop circle that happened in Missouri, and there was a one stem of the, I think it was in wheat, maybe.
Yeah.
A hummingbird had
Yep.
built its nest, and of course, a hummingbird's nest is extraordinarily tiny, but they
Ooh,
had built their nest into the top part of that stem, and the crop circle was made right over the top of it, and it left that one stem up, and that little nest was perfectly intact with the egg inside of it.
that's
So
insanity. How does that happen?
I don't know, but it's amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
And
So
since we're getting into crop circle season, not much seen over here yet. That's so wild.
yeah.
So cool you have a crop circle season. Okay, the
All right.
next one is Alicia, book 2, page 45.
Okay. Okay. This is on the Chicken Man of El Reno, which is a Bigfoot. Um, Mini Bigfoot from Tahlequah, Oklahoma, and oh, we got another Arkansas, the Falk monster,
Oh,
the
yeah.
Arkansas Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Chicken Man from El Reno, Broken Bow area of Oklahoma. Both El Reno and Broken Bow, while many miles apart, both have Bigfoots called the Chicken Man, due to this particular Bigfoot attacking, killing, eating, and stealing local poultry from the farming communities. Descriptions, of course, all match the usual Bigfoot moniker. So it's just their localized name for it. The mini Bigfoot, which hails from the Tahlequah, Oklahoma region, actually, it's just above there in the hills. There's a big set of hills above Tahlequah, and there are several like bands of Bigfoot that live in this area, and one of them are mini Bigfoots. They're like the little mini versions. They usually stand about 4 to 5 feet tall, 4 to 5 feet tall. Um, there's an entire family units of these that live up there, and they're often seen because they'll come down out of the hills to forage in the dumpsters on the edge of the hill land.
Yep.
So they're actually quite normally seen there digging in your trash. Kind of like, I guess, people have trouble with bears in Colorado. We have trouble with Bigfoots,
Bigfoot. Littlefoot's. Something.
Littlefoots. And of course, the last way on here is the very famous folk monster, Falk, I should say, Falk monster, also known as the Arkansas skunk ape, the
Yep.
Boggy Creek monster, if you're a fan of the movie, and the swamp stalker, another localized name for the same dude. And of course, he's most famous for the reports from 71 to 74. However, and I have a little note to myself here, the earliest report date I had on that creature in the area was from the 1850s. So, but that's the story with everything. Everything has an origin. You've just got to look back far enough. He's described as having a galloping gait, swings its arms much like a monkey, bright red eyes, and smells like a mix of skunk and wet dog. That's
Oh,
a fun
sounds
smell.
delightful. Yikes.
That's a fun smell. Yay.
We run into that again where we were talking about you have the different camps. This is a different situation where you have people that aren't familiar with Bigfoot. So they
Mm-hmm.
call him by how whatever their point of reference is. Like, it smells like a skunk, kind of looks like an ape, so it's a skunk ape kind of thing, you know.
Yeah.
And so they call
And
them different names for the same thing
fact,
normally.
I don't think I have. Oh, if you'll give me 1 minute, I'll go grab my book that has all the names of the Bigfoot in Oklahoma. It's
Oh yeah,
hilarious.
absolutely.
All right, I'll be right back. So, somebody else pick out another notebook.
So Ian's ready. Book 5, page 26. So we'll have that all ready to go for when she gets back. Let's see what else we got in the. I love that Ian. Ian said hobbits. Yep, absolutely. And Chicken Man is funny. Yeah, I like that a lot. Too good. So hopefully, while Jess is gone, we are really looking forward to Geneseo this weekend. It's going to be a good time. And we are actually excited because we'll be staying at an Airbnb in Hutchinson. And I think we're going to, where we're at is actually a really good spot. We should be able to see fireworks from the backyard of where we're at. So that's our plan, is to just hang out at the house and watch fireworks. And it's really fun because we're not walking into it blind. We actually stayed at this same Airbnb last year. So it's kind of nice to know where we're going to be at, and that there's a lot of amenities in the area. So looking forward to that. What else do we have going on that day? I'm excited that we're going to get to talk like we did last time. It's different subjects this time, obviously, but it was a good time last year. So really looking forward to it. There was a lot of really inquisitive people that we felt good because we actually had answers for a lot of the questions that they asked. Majority of the questions. I don't think there were any we really didn't have, at least our version of what our thoughts were on it. That it was really fun to get to share all of that. So, okay, Jess is back. So, did you find it? Oh, you're muted.
All right,
There you
am I
go.
back? Okay.
You're back.
So I found the list of all the Bigfoots just in Oklahoma, and they have some hilarious names. I'll just read some of them really quick. So we have the Chicken Man, of course, and we have the Noxie Monster, which is okay. But we also have the Chimp Man, the Gorilla Monster, the Monkey Creature, hold on, let me go down the list here because a lot of them are repeated. The Cave Dweller, Shaggy Bottoms. I guess because he had long hair on his
That is
bottom half.
hilarious. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And there's a lot of like werewolf men because
Mhm.
just because of the hair, it wasn't actually like a dog man. It was actually like a Bigfoot with shaggy hair, but kind of a human-y type of
Mhm.
face. Devil Man, the Creature. It's just called the Creature in Omega, Oklahoma. Um, the Prue Man, which is just from Prue. They couldn't give him any better name than the Prue Man.
He must have been near
Uh,
Peru. Yes.
yeah, I guess. The White Hairy Creature. So this was a Bigfoot that was actually white. Kind
You
of
know,
interesting.
there is a they I know Brian's talked about it quite a bit. There is one in the area that seems to migrate back and forth through Kansas and down into Oklahoma, kind of make that track back and forth. I wonder if it's the same one.
Maybe. I don't know. We also have the Murphy Monster, the Black Monster, and there was another really funny one. Where is that one at?
Yeah. Chelsea said some of
Uh,
these would be epic band names. They would be.
oh, the Stink Howler.
The Stink Howler.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's from the Durant area. It lives by a creek, and apparently, it smells really bad. And when you get too near it, it'll like screechy howl at you to scare you away. Yeah,
Stink Howler. All
that's pretty
right.
funny.
That is hilarious.
Anywho, okay, I'm moving to ends. He wants
Let's
book 5, page
page 26.
26. Okay,
See, yeah,
let's
those
see
are
what we
great.
can dig up here. Oh my goodness. Um, 26. Oh, okay. This is the Catman.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so for those of you who have not never heard us tell it, this is the story of our local Catman. Uh, which is based on an absolutely true story of a cannibal. And I'm just going to read it. It's the story. So, what time is it? Yeah, we got time to do it.
Yeah.
Um, it was midsummer of 1883, and the Fenwick family from New York were traveling through the area. They made camp one day on the far northeast corner of the Osage Indian Territory and were in good spirits, for it was little Katie Fenwick's birthday. She received a wonderful gold locket and chain given to her by her doting father. After her birthday dinner, Katie made her way from the camp, running, playing, and enjoying the evening. Unfortunately, she strayed too far. They spent days searching for her and even used experienced Indian trackers, but sadly, she was never seen again. Little did they know that this was just the beginning of a rash of strange disappearances that would plague the area for several years. Later that December, George Bitters, a mail carrier from Sedan, which is about 20 minutes to the northwest of us,
Yeah.
right? Went missing during a regular weekly trek to Peru, which is a little bit closer to us. He never arrived. However, his horse was found by a search party, alive but stripped of its saddle and bridle. The next spring, a boy by the name of Elmer Johnson went missing after failing to return home from a hunting trip. They did find his gun, stock broken, and recovered his hat, which was covered in blood. In the fall of 1885, a wagon was found with the skeletons of two horses still hitched to it, but no trace of humans. It was estimated to have sat there for about a year. That winter, two men went out hunting in the hills, Oscar Bench and Frank Renfer. During the trip, the men got separated. Frank made it back, but Oscar vanished. No trace of him could be found. Numerous other individuals were reported missing throughout those years, their strange disappearances unaccounted for. During this time, the rails for the new railroad line were being laid on the Kansas side of the reservation border in the Cascade area of Chautauqua County. The team of men working the rails were being harassed by something prowling and stealing from their camp at night. Nonplussed by who or what might be coming around their tents, they opted to sleep light and stay on guard. One late night, a gold chain was stolen right off the neck of the lead rail worker. He pulled his gun and shot it in the leg. It roared like a beast and took off in complete disregard of the bleeding bullet wound. The workers rallied and made chase into the hills. Later the next day, the group was ambushed by flying stones. They rallied once again and finally chased down the beast by the entrance to a cave. After a drawn-out, chaotic fight, the beast swinging a large club and the posse with their gun and many knives, the wild men lay dead. He was dressed in simple animal skins, and his face was tanned by exposure to about the color of sole leather, and was seamed by terrible scars. His nose was broken and had grown terribly distorted, and half of his upper lip had been torn away, exposing teeth-like fangs. A mat of iron-gray hair covered his head and lower portion of his face. Clasped around his wrists were a pair of heavy steel bands, from one of which suspended a link of chain. About 20 feet into the cave, the group found a living area with a fire pit. A natural shelf in the rock wall contained no less than 16 skulls, and in the center of the cave lay a large pile of bones. Hanging from pegs in the cave wall were around 100 articles, which included the saddle and pouch of the missing mail carrier, George Bitters, Elmer Johnson's clothes, and Oscar Bench's gun. Found in a pocket fissure was a large collection of treasures, which also included Katie Fenwick's little gold chain and locket. Area officials believe him to be a Delaware Indian who years previous had gone insane. He had broken his chains and made an escape from his confines, the iron still on his wrists. They had assumed he had long since died of exposure. Little did they know that he was living quite comfortably as the wild cannibal Catman from the hills. And then the rest of it is just a little bit more about the local area stuff, but it's on the next page. So that's our true story. It absolutely did happen. There was a Delaware Indian who they had locked up for insanity. He got loose, made his way out to the hills. Now the Chautauqua Hills and the Osage Hills are just full of caves. Little ones, big ones. You could probably, if you knew what you were doing, probably live quite, well, maybe not comfortably, but you could live.
Yeah, absolutely. You could.
Yeah. And you could certainly live off the deer and stuff in the area, but I think he probably soon ran out of that and then started on the people.
Maybe came to have a penchant for humans instead of animals.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
But
Cool.
anywho, he lives on an infamy, so he became our local boogeyman. So you would hear that growing up, don't go out after night or the cat man will get you. And it became mixed in with our local Bigfoot and our local dog man. Pam and I have a little theory on that, and it's all become one and the same. And there's several names for it now, and it just depends on who you're talking to, what they're talking about. It could be the Cascades monster, the Cascades man. It could be the cat man. It could be the Four Corners monster.
Wow.
Kind of all one and the same, and also not at the same time. It's a weird, diluted mishmash of monsters and bridges. Oddly enough, bridges are mixed in with that. It's kind of nutty.
Yes, very much so. And Alicia had posted the Cascade area is where she used to live. Yeah, she grew up right out there where all of this originally took place. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Beautiful area. Absolutely beautiful. But yeah,
all right, did we get through them all?
We did. We did. I don't think I missed
Woo!
anyone. If I missed anyone, tell me. I don't believe I did, though. Pretty sure I got everyone.
All right.
What a night.
Oh my gosh. It started off scary. It ended kind of scary with the Catman, but
Good.
in a different fashion. I think it'll be a while before Pam and I do like bad omens, harbingers, and just bad luck in general.
I do believe we learned our lesson on that one.
I think so too.
I think something had a finger in tonight's antics for sure.
Yes.
Like you said, I have
definitely.
a feeling I know where the cave is, by the way. Yeah. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on that, because we think we have an idea of where it is too.
Yeah. On private property, unfortunately, too.
Yeah,
So
it is.
can't really prove it, but
Yeah.
it is what it is. Okay. Well, then, do you have anything else to say before I start
I do not.
going here? All right. Okay, well, thank you everybody for watching tonight and hanging out in the chats and talking with us. Ginger says Kaney's just being weird, and that is absolutely true.
Yeah. Enzo said, don't
It
bring
is
any bad mojo to Geneseo. We're going to try.
We're gonna try not to. I don't want to bring any bad mojo
Oh,
with us.
yeah. I didn't finish that sentence, did I? I was reading the comments. We're going to try not to. Woo.
We're trying not to. Okay, yeah. Thanks everybody for playing notebook games and hanging out in the chats. Remember to watch on Facebook for that rogue notebook game to pop up. That'll be lots of fun. Good luck to you. Of course, remember to like and share real quick. Thumbs up, subscribe, hit that bell if you haven't yet. Rate us on your podcast if you're listening in on all your podcast platforms. We go live every other Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Central, and the next time we'll be on is July 16th, and we'll be posting the topic here pretty soon on Facebook. So watch for that. Catch us this weekend at Geneseo for Kansas UFO Day, and August 2nd at Paracon, or excuse me, KC Paracon. PC Kara. Oh my lord, it's been a long night. Anywho, I'm going to get us on out of here. You all have a fabulous night. Watch out for bad omens and harbingers. Stay away from those, because we certainly didn't. Hello.
We learned our lesson, didn't we?
We did. Keep it weird, keep it strange, and remember, it's all connected. Good night.
Good night, everybody. You have to let me know if the outro